Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Awesome Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kamen Rider Legend vs. Kamen Rider Gotchard, Episode 2. This is the second and final part, I guess, for now, of this little mini-series. I'm sure it's not the last we've seen of Legend. You know, the fact that his toy was released at retail and all the stuff they're doing. I mean, I'm sure there's a very good chance we could see him in other future crossovers or mini-specials, but I'm very confident he'll show up in the show at some point. And I have some interesting thoughts on that, what I'll save to the end. But let's talk about the main episode. The beginning of the episode, actually, funnily enough, starts with this funny interaction between Gotchard and Kagura. Is his name Kagura? I'm just going to call him Legend because Kaguragi? Kevin? It's Legend. Between him and Legend, where he basically says, like, you're pretty boring compared to the other protagonists, the past protagonists like Geats. Like, you're not fancy enough. Like, it was kind of in the lens of, like, Legend's all about being fancy and standing out, and, like, Gotchard's not as fancy or doesn't stand out like the others. But I thought it was almost kind of meta in commenting on, like, my critique of Gotchard is that, like, most of the Rider protagonists in recent years are cut from the same cloth, but Gotchard is like almost the template. Like, he's got absolutely no unique flavor to him other than being annoying. And I thought that was a kind of funny way to start off the episode. But effectively, you then have this situation where there's an attack and Legend's ignoring it, and Gotchard's like, oh, I'm the moral high ground, Chemies! And he heads off. And then his assistant butler guy, that's glasses guy without glasses, so glasses-less guy, explains to him his backstory. It's actually very Hawkeye, reminding me very much of Hawkeye, as you see young Legend, like his uncle's dying, and he's like, remember, with great power comes toku gimmicks to buy at Toys R Us. Is dying, and he's kind of, you know, gives him, like, the inspiration to continue on or whatever. And when he's, like, amongst this destruction, he sees Decade, and he's inspired by seeing him, kind of, again, reminding me of the Hawkeye when you have Kate Bishop seeing Hawkeye. And so that's how that backstory goes. And then he explains to him that his whole at least one of his drives behind making himself so fancy and basically making himself a huge eyesore is he wants to draw all the eyes on him. So if all the attention's on him, it's not being attacked, you know, or having other people being attacked. And he says something like, oh, you know, there's been a cut down by like 75% of attacks or whatever because they've all been targeting him. So I thought that was kind of cool. Get to something I have to say about that in a minute as well. But then we do get to the fight where we have the main villain leader who is teased at the end of the last episode. And apparently this villain group, the 100 or whatever, are tied to stuff from the Geo movies, as people brought out in the last comments of my previous video. I didn't know that because I have not watched any of the post-series Geo content. I need to, but like, that stuff came out, I mean, in general, when Geo was airing, I didn't have the strongest opinion of it, but there was a period of time for almost 5 years where I stopped watching Toku movies because their terribleness was just upsetting me. I'm like, why am I watching these? They just upset me. But since I've been on a Toku kick, I have been catching up on stuff. You know, I watched all the Geats-related content that's out, all the Revised one, and I made a list of the stuff that I missed out on I want to check out, and I was going to go in chronological order, but because it might be kind of important, maybe I should get to the Geo ones. Point is, if I don't know that this is from one of those things, it's because I didn't watch those movies. Anyway, he's based on a Geo, and his name is Kamen Rider Barlckxs. That's funny. I mean, I don't think it's that, but I'm going to call him Kamen Rider Barlckxs. And it just made me think, so you have this rider based off of Decade, based off of Geo, all this, again, these cool ideas for the next anniversary. I'm like, why are we doing this now? I just don't get it, other than the card thing and the appeal of Decade and then just the appeal of them regurgitating this stuff constantly. I'm like, this would be so cool to see in like 5 years' time for the 10th anniversary of Reiwa. You know, you do a 3rd anniversary series. Imagine having a main rider that's like based on celebrating that. And then you got Kamen Rider Legend and Kamen Rider Barlckxs in here. And I'm like, this is so many cool ideas, both aesthetically and story-wise, to continue this overarching narrative. I'm like, why are we wasting this right now? I'm not even into the anniversary Toku crossover stuff. And I'm like, this could be so, I don't know, why are we wasting it on Gotchard? Debut a couple other Gotchard forms. You know, these forms have been overall okay. I don't dislike them. I think they can be pretty cool for what they are. I don't like them as much as like the revised forms. I did really like the O's double helmet. There was something really cool about that. And then Legend also transforms into Decade, which his like Legend Rider changes have like just a sash on them. And it's funny because it's like his whole thing is being as fancy as possible, and it's funny how minimalist making the other riders fancy by just putting a sash on them is. But also it's funny because his suit just looks like a more fancy version of Decade, so him transforming into Decade with the sash feels like a downgrade just in regards to him wanting to be as fancy as possible. And we just kind of end off everything for now after we resolve this fight with Hotaro disappearing, and just kind of end off of a note of they'll probably meet again. And again, I'm sure we will. I'll probably in the main series. I just don't know why we're wasting all this stuff on this weird little Gotchard thing. Like, again, other than the card thing, they're just, it's just so out of place. I could have seen them doing like a mini series where he meets all the different writers that use cards and like compare and contrast that, but this just, in a way, seems so weird. I mean, it's weird and it's not. It's not weird in the sense that Toku has been shoving this stuff down our throats for 10 years now, but it just seems weird because these seem like big picture ideas I could see them pulling out in 5 years for the 10th anniversary Ryua series. There's two things I wanted to say that's kind of funny is, we know Toku is a toy commercial, but you know, obviously they've been able to make good shows within that. One of my common complaints about Gotchard is it feels like one of those more mini-series that's maybe a couple episodes, or like Dino Force Brave, where they distill the experience down and you take away the actual storytelling and heart, and it just distills down to the core check like boxes you need to check to sell the toys. And that's kind of exactly what this special is meant to be, even more so than main Gotchard. It's just meant right now to sell the Legend toys and sell you on the concept, and it's not meant to have an enormous amount of depth. And but at the same time, I'm more interested in the stuff going on here than the Gotchard show. And I'm not like over-exaggerating. I mean, to a degree, but I'm not trying to even be mean-spirited towards Gotchard. Just like literally, the concepts introduced into here are far more interesting in terms of like the stuff going on with Legend and Barlckxs and whatever. But also, Legend himself, just his character in general is so much more unique. I mean, this type of douchey character that dresses kind of fancifully and flamboyant isn't unique to Toku, but just his setup is a variant of other Toku characters I've seen before, but in comparison to Gotchard, who feels like the absolute most milquetoast variant, this character feels so much more unique as a protagonist, especially when they gave the line of like, he makes himself basically a target to lure it away from people. I'm like, that's cool. There's so much like legitimately interesting stuff about this that like within 2 episodes that are 10 minutes each, there's concepts I'm far more interested in than Gotchard, which I find to be hilarious, because like this is designed to be just the most shallow stuff possible of like just checking the boxes of like, we need to sell these toys, and yet the concepts they introduced intrigued me more than the lion's share of Gotchard. Same thing with the protagonist. It's funny because of my perspective on all this, because as you know, I'm sick of the anniversary crap. I think they need to cool it. I think they need to make it special again. Obviously, who am I to talk? It's working for them. I just would love for it to be special again. And so when the idea of anything Decade related coming into Gotchard came up before Gotchard came out, I was like, no way, I don't want to see this crap anymore. And then I kind of forgot about it. And Gotchard was so boring and bad that when I was reminded of it when we saw a picture of Kamen Rider Legend, I was kind of excited. Like, and then in any other series, I would be glad, like, yeah, let's keep it as side content. Just for those 2 episodes, that's fine. It doesn't interrupt the main series. I'm like, no, Legend needs to come in here. Like, that's how bad Gotchard is, but like, this has actually been good, that I'm like, it's just funny that Gotchard has been so bland that it's taken a concept, which is more anniversary-esque content, and made me interested in it again. Not in the way that I want to see more and more of it, but I'm like, this stuff is good enough that I'm like, please come over to the main show and make something interesting happen. It's just kind of funny. Last little note before just the final thoughts, I wanted to say there was a couple like nice interactions with Hotaro and Legend, where Hotaro felt like an actual human being for a couple seconds, and it reminded me that within the first handful of episodes, there was a couple of scenes with Hotaro where he actually felt like a grounded character, where he would do something annoying and then he would have like a nice moment with Rin or a side character, and I kind of forgot about that because I feel like he's just been always on as a cartoon for the most recent episodes. But anyway, overall, you know, these 2 episodes were pretty generic, but honestly, they were pretty enjoyable to me. I think they introduced a fun new character, some really cool new suits and concepts. You know, it was fun to watch. So I recommend checking them out, absolutely. And I am honestly intrigued of anything, oddly enough, I would have never guessed in a million years, of everything within the Gotchard sphere. This is the thing I'm most interested in seeing more from, whether it's more specials or movies or him coming over to the show or all of the above. But yeah, I enjoyed myself. That's about it for this one, though. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.